Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. I wanted to show you what I've been working on. I have a couple big pieces that I've been working on, and then some small patterns that I'll show in a little bit. So this is an update on this project I'm working on. The ink is running out in the pen I'm working with, so I'm having to go slowly and thoroughly to make sure the ink is coming out. But I actually kind of like it. The variations in the lines I think is really interesting. So I showed in the last video that there is this oval shape in which all the centers of my circles have been going. This is literally a bunch of circles. I counted like a quarter of the section, and I believe this is just over 250 circles when it's done. So I'll be showing the next piece that I've been working on. This one I'm going to show up close a little bit because it's hard to see since it's in pencil right now. So the shape in the middle is the flower of life pattern, but it also has this yin yang pattern with it as well. In the corners here you can barely see them, but they are the platonic solids. There are more than this, but this is how many I'm using. On the edges here you see this kind of grid pattern. So it'll be hard to explain what I'm going to do with this grid, but it's I'm going to be following the lines and creating a shape that kind of looks like waves but with lines. The background flower of life pattern, I worked really hard to have it really neat, but unfortunately where the two sides meet is really not cohesive. So if I were to draw a pattern from this shape, it would become glaringly obvious right here. So I've come up with a solution to this part because everything else is, I'm really happy with how it's coming along. So what I'm going to do is, let's see. I have this isometric grid paper that I doodle designs onto, patterns. And what I noticed is that I took the radius of these small circles and I plugged it in, and funnily enough, it basically exactly matches 2 units of this isometric grid. And this is the pattern that I'm going to be doing in the background, kind of a cube type shape. So what I'm going to do is I have graphite paper, and I'm going to lay down a couple sheets over this. Then I'm going to tape these together and then line it up on my piece. And what you do is you take like a pen or something and you just draw on this grid paper above the graphite paper, and it transfers that onto the paper down here. So that's how I'm gonna work around that. So with this yin-yang shape, I just want to point a couple things out as to the construction. This inner circle is half the radius of the normal circles being created in here for the flower of life shape. These two circles, and I only drew half of the part because that's a yin-yang shape. These are exactly double of the original circle size. And that's what creates the S shape. And then I have a little border around it. So it's going to be hard to explain what I'm going to be doing with all of this, but I'm going to be doing something a little different with each platonic solid, the details in it, and I'll be really excited to start showing some pen work. It's almost there, probably. Well, I do want to finish up the other project that I'm working on before I really invest into this project. So we'll see. But there will be, it won't just be lines. I'll be filling in some shapes with black and having some positive space and negative space, some more contrast to that. So that's the second big piece that I'm working on right now. If you bear with me, I'm going to go ahead and change the location of the camera. It's on a, forgot what you call it, kind of like a tripod type thing. I guess you got a glimpse of my shirt. It's a, okay, well somehow I clicked off the video. So we're back. This is a pattern that I saw on the cover of a book, and I was fascinated by it and really wanted to draw it. I did this all just freehand with Sharpie on, you can see it's isometric grid paper. This pattern looks a bit confusing when you first look at it. I was a bit confused by it, but I studied it a little bit, and I wanted to, I originally messed up with how many steps this should go. If you count, well, it's hard to explain right now, but I guess if you can see this, you can see it needs to be a certain distance. So I messed up on this one, had to redo it on this, but I figured I would keep these lines to show how I created this pattern, or how this pattern is created. So to start with, we're going to find the center, which is right here, and we're going to go 4 units. I just call these little spaces units, to the northeast, or northwest, and then to the south. Okay, so you can see that there is a gap in the indents right here. So I'm going to go ahead and mimic that. So I'm going to leave a space right there, and I'm just going to follow the lines around this original line. I'm going to leave a space in all the indents. Okay, and then you can see on the next layer up here, there's a space on the outer points. So we'll mimic that. And there's not any space in the indent. it alternates, and that's how it's kind of like an optical illusion. That's how that's created. It's kind of the alternating. Okay, and then you see we have just one more layer. It's going to be the indents again, so we're going to leave space. And I'm just kind of getting these ideas down on this grid paper so that it's not a bunch of work just to get the idea down. Okay, so obviously the issue with this one is that these outer lines should have a gap in the points. So that's why this one doesn't quite look right and it's not continuous. You can see, so we went the first, then 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more. So the first, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see how that has a space? This does not. And do you see how the point on this shape lines up with the indent on this shape? That's how it's continuous, because the point, indent, and where the point would be on this, the indent would be over here. So that's how this is. Oops, had a little bleed over. That's how this is a continuous pattern. And if you shake it around, to me, there's kind of some trippy visual effects that go on. So this is where my isometric paper is from, and I've started doing just some patterns just to get the ideas down. And you know, I mess up and whatever, I fix it. This is just to get the ideas down. It doesn't really matter the quality. So I'm just going to explain this pattern real quick. So if we start from the center here, we can see this pattern goes out 1 unit in all the directions. And we can see if we're going out, there's basically 3 options that we can take without going back in. We can keep going forward, we can go to the left, or we can go to the right. Obviously, with this pattern, you see it go to the left. So we go out 1 and to the left 2. And then we can see we can either go forward, left, or right, and you see it go right. And we go 1 unit, and that's back to another center. Now from the center we can go out all 1, and from each one of these we go to the left 2. And you see all of these going to the left 2 units. And then back to the right 1 unit. It's very simple pattern, but it creates these really interesting positive and negative shapes. This one is also very simple. I'm actually just gonna continue the pattern here. I'm gonna pretend like there's nothing else here, and I'm just going to create a hexagon anywhere, but I'm gonna create it right here. So this is my hexagon, and what we can do is, well, how I started this is I noticed that in the pattern I just looked at the hexagons and what pattern that they made, and I saw that it was kind of in thirds. So we know that 6 hexagons fits around 1 hexagon, and there are 3 hexagons around here, so it's every other hexagon. So we can do the same here. We see that there's 1 hexagon here. We're gonna skip this point, and we're gonna go to this point, and we're gonna create a hexagon from that point. So we can skip this point and go to this point. And we're going to create a hexagon. From here, you see these 3 hexagons we created. You kind of see half of a star shape. And if you want, you can keep creating the hexagons, or you can see that star shape and finish it up. So we have this star shape. What we're going to do is connect all of the indents on the inside. And that's literally our pattern. I just realized I did this with Sharpie instead of the pen I was using, and it bleeds over, but that's okay. Let me see. I'll just stick with the Sharpie. So I'll just keep doing this a little bit just to give you guys some familiarity with it. And what I do from the stars is, you can see that from the stars, from the indents, they're all hexagons. So I just kind of follow the indents of the stars. Let me see, half a star shape. Follow that around. Connect the indents. Oops, that was, well, it's okay. It's just, we're just getting the idea down. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. I can do a little bit each day, not too much. And I'm getting my ideas out there. Feels good. Okay, well, thank you for joining. Hope you learned something new. If you have any questions about any of the projects I'm working on, and maybe how, let's see, let me go back actually and make sure I explained everything with this one. So I feel like there was some stuff I didn't explain. I will go over the platonic solids. Actually, I can actually explain it to you right here. Let me change this a little bit. Okay, so there is this hexagon shape that is the perimeter of this platonic solid. What I did was connect every other point of the hexagon, and that creates a triangle. You can then take the blank portions of the triangle and connect this line across, but stop when it hits the triangle. There's another one here and another one here. You take the points where it stops and you connect them, and here's another triangle. That's that platonic solid. This is the cube shape. I've shown you how to create that. You just take these thirds and connect them in the middle. What you can do is you put your ruler across here, you draw the line. You can go over because they'll all connect at the same point, and you can erase the extra. Let's go over. This one's very easy. You're just making a triangle like this one over here without creating the hexagon, or without including the hexagon, and then you just connect these center lines from these points. This one is very similar to the one over here. You create your hexagon and you just create that triangle in there, and that's it. So that's those 4 platonic solids. I believe this is fire, air, water, earth. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but that's just off. I believe I'm remembering correctly. So with this, this outer portion was actually one of the biggest challenges I've had with this piece. In order to do a repeating pattern, you needed to have sections that were whole numbers to where they would line up, going this way and then going that way. It's a little hard to explain until you see. So I wanted to make sure there was a border so that I could frame this, but I also needed measurements that would measure whole numbers across here, and I also needed whole numbers for these very, very small divisions. And those two number groups needed to be divisible, the smaller into the bigger. So until you, hopefully that's somewhat understandable. If you were to do this yourself, you would be very familiar with what I'm talking about. But I just want to show you a little bit of what I did. Let's see if I can remember this, because I did it. Yeah, okay. So this will be hard to see. Let's see. 4, 5. So with this little tiny division thing, I found out that you could do 6 of these little notches per each of these lines, but there was one extra line, or one extra unit on the ruler that had to be included in the measurement. So at 2 of the lines, I had to push it over half of one of these. Let's see if I can get a focus. These measurements, and they're very, very small. So that's a good, what do they call it? Like an error range. Forgot the term for that. So all of these lines are generally going to be very, very similar distances, and it won't create any issues. The actual sections of the squares are 1 inch, and as you can see, these lines don't really line up anywhere nice on the inches. So I tried all these different sides, and nothing was really lining up, and I found that this really tiny one over here, I could get it. The other issues, well, there was kind of the planning stage of this, of how big do I make this circle where there can be 4 platonic solids in the corners without being too small or too big. Because if they were too big, the center circle would be too small, and I wanted the ratios a certain look to them, and I really like the ratios of it. So yeah, that's it now. Thanks for watching. Again, hope you learned something new. Hope you're learning. Please let me know if you're experimenting, if you're drawing. It's really interesting to see what other people draw. And if you want to stay up to date with all these updates, I have an Instagram page. It's meandering_mystic_707. I will be putting it in the description. So I will see you on there if you get one and you follow me. Yeah, blessings to everyone out there. It's been a very interesting week. I will be making a video about my journey within the next few days and seeing what you guys are up to. Have a wonderful day or evening, whatever time and place you're watching. Be well, be blessed, and see you next time.